So this is Tuesday, phase 9's workout. The way it's gonna work, there's gonna be 5 stations around the gym. At each station, we'll do 4 rounds, and it will be 25 seconds of work with 20 seconds rest. So we're going strength focus today, trying to challenge the difficulty of a lot of our exercises here.
All right, guys, so the first one's gonna be TRX Eccentric rows. So one thing you gotta make sure is that the TRXs have been moved over here, they're not over there, so make sure the person setting them up is moved to this side over here. So from here, on a TRX row, that's that position over here, we're going back and forth. With an eccentric row, all I'm thinking about is that nice and slow. So I hold myself in first, then out. 1, 2, 3, 4, up. 1, 2, 3, 4, up. One thing I find with this variation is people can actually walk under and challenge themselves just a little bit more, just a little bit slower. Then you're going to pull up. 1, 2, 3, 4, full extension, pull up. So if you have people that need to get a little bit farther under because they're a little bit stronger, you might have to have one of these pulled up a little bit higher to challenge them on that. So don't be afraid to do that, adjust it, because if they walk far under, they might run into a situation where they hit the bottom two. So don't be afraid to adjust these for them. So that's the eccentric on the first one. That's going to be straight sets. Remember, we're going to go right in a row with those, so they do get a little challenging. Station number 2 is going to be floor presses. So on floor presses, we want to make sure that people are challenging their weight. The obstacle of floor presses comes into being able to get the weight up. So we have to teach them how to get the weight up. So first thing is, when they sit down, they'll grab their dumbbells off the rack. We don't want them to put their dumbbells back after they're done because we want to make sure we don't have a mess of dumbbells. So when they have the dumbbells on the ground, my first tip, especially for people that this gets pretty heavy, is I go put one up and I get the other one lifted up onto here. Ideally, then you get them to come to this position as well. When it gets heavy, it doesn't always go to that position. It can be like this. So when we're here, then we're going to tilt ourselves back and have it fall down to our elbows. Here, feet flat, back flat against the ground. I don't want them here because a lot of people, this can cause lower back issues, especially if they have a big butt, they'll take their back off. This allows them to get flat there. From here, abs tight, glutes squeeze as usual. We're going to press up as far as we can. Getting these things to come pretty close together. We don't need them to touch at all. We're coming up close together a little bit. We're control them back down. Don't let those elbows bounce off the ground. Just control till they touch. Drive up. Control till they touch. Drive up. Then when getting rid of the weights, they can either bail on the weight, which when I mean is coming down with the weight and let it fall off to the side, or they could just sit with the weight on them like this too. If the weight's pretty heavy for some of these people, that might be hard to do, but if it's not that heavy weight, they can probably just hold the weight here. But a lot of times when I get down to this, when I have to be kind of like this, where I'm going to drop the weights forward like this, let them fall, and I'll get back up for the next round, pull them on here, go again. That's going to be the obstacle for a lot of people on this, is just getting that weight up, especially if they're challenging themselves, especially with our guys who are getting pretty heavy. Another thing to do to encourage on this one is like the gold star training we've been doing. Encourage people over the weeks to add one of those little red guys to it or yellow guys to it to make it just a little bit heavier. Because a 5-pound jump is a pretty big jump, especially for females on this one. So adding a little bit of weight is a good way to go and to move them along. Station number 3 is going to be jump ropes. So with jump ropes, ideally we have these outside. So if the weather's nice, we're going to have the jump ropes outside. If the weather's not nice, we're going to be doing plank jumps inside, but no matter what, the jump ropes are not coming inside because we don't have space for it. We don't want to hit anybody with it, okay? So the jump ropes are just for outside. If we can't do that, I'll show you plank jumps next. So on jump ropes, the thing we're going to teach people is when they're trying to pick a jump rope height, ideally, is the jump rope, you stand in the middle of it, and it comes to your armpit. So this one's just a little bit low for me, but that's not that big a deal. But that's kind of how we pick a right jump rope height. From there, we're going to step off. Just so you know, the jump ropes are now hanging over here, so we don't have that rack anymore, they're not hanging over there. So from here, on a jump rope, I want to make sure I keep everything as calm as possible. All I'm doing is jumping with my feet, and I'm just making sure my wrists are twisting, but everything else stays in line. Right? I'm just snapping my wrists through everything else, nothing else moves. My knees don't jump up, right? I'm not going, well, I definitely don't want to do that. So, I'm not going here where I'm going to be like that. Everything's calm, under control. I'm not moving my wrist up and down when I do it because that changes the height of the rope. Everything's just smooth in position. And teaching this is not a bad thing. A lot of people don't know how to jump rope right. It's just like running. A lot of people don't know how to run running. So we're coming through, everything, just one smooth in going through, okay? So we have the jump rope, that's outside. We do need to cone that off, okay? Just making sure nobody pulls in there. It's just anywhere they want outside of there. So from there, we have plate jumps. So even if we do have jump ropes outside, we still have the modification of plate jumps for people. Plate jumps have to happen inside. We don't want to ruin these plates out on that concrete. So plate jumps will be over here. We do want to line them up on the rubber, because when the turf, they have a tendency to slide a little bit, which becomes a little bit more dangerous. So lining up on the rubber is a good thing to do. So from here, on a plate jump, you can jump many ways on a plate. First one's feet apart, together, apart. You can jump together quickly here. You can switch feet as well, so people have a tendency to do that. A lot of modifications they can do on the plate, but even if it's bad weather, we're gonna just do plate jumps for everybody on this. The height of the plate really doesn't make that big a difference, so don't worry too much about how heavy the plates are big. Usually the 25s are ideal and 35s are ideal. The 15s are probably a little small for this one. Our last modification is so that you can't jump at all. We're just doing a linear line shuffle. So we're just coming forward and back, like that salsa dance position for them, okay? Station number 4, we have body saws. So on a body saw, the first variations of sliders, toes dig into the slider, elbows down on the pad. We want glue pads out here. People can obviously do them on the rubber if they want, or they can do it on the turf without the pad, but I find the pad to be a little bit cushiony on this one, invaluable. But from here, we're gonna go forward and back. The key on this one, the only thing that's really moving, I'm gonna plank this, but the only thing really moving is my shoulders being driven by my elbows, right? So my shoulders are moving, they're driven by my elbows moving back and forth. Modification there is we're gonna get rid of the feet, especially if you see somebody, or so get rid of the slider, especially if you see somebody coming up with hiking their butt really high. It might be worth, if they can't get themselves into a regular plank, it might be worth just going to a plank saw. So here, and now from here we're gonna drive our toes forward as our elbows bend, or our shoulders come with it, back and forth. Get people sometimes used to that position, and then the sliders make sense for them as well. So sometimes moving over that transition helps as well. Our farthest modification is just gonna be a hand lift. Try not to get them to move too much on those. Back and forth. Worst case scenario, if somebody has bad shoulders or something, they can always just do a regular plank too. But that's lots of modifications that we have there. The last station we have here is going to be kind of new for a lot of people. We do want to use kettlebells on this one because we've been using the dumbbells for the floor presses. So with kettlebells, you're going to want to have a lot of different variations of kettlebells. But the nice thing is we're only doing one side of the kettlebell, one kettlebell at a time. Feet, I like my feet a little bit more narrow on this RDL, so we're doing an offset kettlebell RDL. I like my feet a little bit more narrow so that the kettlebell doesn't bang against my calves too much. So driving my hips back, core tight, driving back. RDL position here. We don't need to go touch the ground, just a good RDL position. Snap our hips. RDL, snap our hips. Every round, we just switch arms. Okay, but as you see there, I'm not trying to touch the ground. I'm just getting back to that long RDL position, hamstrings firing. You can challenge the weight for sure. We don't want people to go too light, but make sure they're really bracing their core on this one. Finisher for today is the 4-minute push-up test. So if you guys ever done this one before with us before, we've been doing this one for years. So on a 4-minute push-up test, our goal is we're going to start a timer for as many push-ups as you can do inside of 4 minutes. You pick one modification, you guys stick with that modification the entire time, right? So if I'm starting with full push-ups, I can't transition to knee push-ups. It's not about volume of push-ups. It's about trying to push yourself to do the hardest variation you can and get as many reps as you can out of that variation, okay? So when we are recording this, you want to make sure if somebody's doing a full push-up, that's just the number you're recording on there. And then there's a little RX button next to it that's called prescribe. So a little RX button, click that guy, that means they did the full variation. If they did anything that's not, then you don't have to push that little button, and those will just tell us if they're modified. And it's probably good to say if they're modified on their knees, or if they're modified on an incline, or if they use the band, okay? So for here, first variation is going to be full push-up. So on a full push-up, any position, push-up position, elbows tight here, control. I have 4 minutes of push-ups. I can stop, rest, however much I want. I usually recommend giving these guys advice on how to get through this push-up test. Most people that are really good at push-ups are going to go out of the gate hard. They're going to be like 20, 25 right away, thinking that, okay, more is better at the beginning. It's actually the opposite. You probably, if you're really good at push-ups, you start slower and you do a little bit less, groups of 5 or 10, you'll be able to sustain that for a longer period of time, you'll end up with more push-ups at the end. So it's like, you strategy, okay guys, but knock out 5, right? And after 5, rest. Take a 2, 3 second rest, go again, go again. As they get to minute 3, they're gonna start breaking it down to only 2 reps, or 1 rep at a time, so give them good strategy. From there, our first modification, we could, 1, have people banded. If you have a lot of people in your class, you probably don't want to go to the banded variation, because we're not gonna have enough area to put everybody in banded push-ups, but you could if you only have 2 or 3 people in class. Otherwise, most people from that variation, because a lot of people in here can do like the hand release push-up on that position, so a lot of people could do that one. Otherwise, from there, they can go to the knees push-up. So a knees push-up here, that's why I have the pad here, you put your knees on the pad, coming down, and up. Try to get that chest as close to the ground as possible. On all of these, you can always use that bucket over there. We have a bunch of balls. I always tell people to try to touch the ball. Right there. And that'll give them good depth. You'll see a lot of people doing push-ups like this. And it's not really a push-up, and not one that really counts. So the balls help give them good depth. Okay, so you can always go to a lacrosse ball, just with a lacrosse ball, try not to bounce off the ground too much. And our farthest modification would be if we have somebody that really struggles with push-ups pretty heavy, we can just set up an incline bar and have them do an incline bar as well. Okay?